God hates Goths, does he? So, if you don't know, there's a website kicking around that is basically entitled God Hates Goths. I think it's been set up by that guy, Reverend Green or something his name is, and basically what he says is that Goths, and I'm presuming everyone else in the subculture, is the greatest threat to society. It's a sinister and violent subculture, apparently obsessed with Satanism, Wicca, vampirism, BDSM, rape, child abuse, Hitler for some arbitrary reason, bondage, sick sexual perversions, serial killers, death, drugs, self-mutilation and other sick practices too vile to mention. Goths are devil's children and Goths are more dangerous to kids than paedophiles. Okay, first off, I'm pissed at this. First off because the majority of it is completely wrong, and two, it's just complete sign of intolerance. So I'm going to take it apart the same way I normally do. First off, it's like he's saying that it's always immersed in the occult and vampirism, witchcraft, death, horror, rape, suicide, perversity, blah blah blah. First off, no, it isn't, because that is not what the subculture consists of. It is not, I mean, and I'm going to refer to Goths more because it's shorter in this, but it's immersed in the occult? Well, no, because you get people of all different religions within the subculture. Vampirism? No. Witchcraft, referred to as Wicca, and no, not everyone is into that. Death? Again, no. Horror and rape? Personally, I do not know any subculture serial rapists, and I'm pretty certain if the subculture was made up of rapists, I'm pretty certain the media would be all over this, and it's complete and utter crap. Next one, he says that the subculture is apparently means subhuman, that we view ourselves as a lower form of life. No, we don't. We view ourselves as an alternative form of we view ourselves as an alternative form of life, as in an alternative culture. And the reason that it's called the subculture is because it's alternative and less people are in it than the mainstream. So therefore, you cannot sit and claim that we are subhuman, and it is people that discriminate against the subculture that make us subhuman, and who put forward this belief that we're all evil and all into, you know, like freaking sacrificing virgins and shit. It's bullshit. Next one. Apparently we have nothing that benefits society. Now, first off, this is completely inaccurate, because a recent scientific report shows that most people within the subculture are smart, mainly because they were people who were smart and were outcast. And I'm just making a generalisation here, this doesn't speak for everyone, but it speaks for the majority of us, is that we went into the music because we were outcasts, and it's what we could relate to, and it defined us as who we are. So, and plus you're normally going to find that the people who are in your class who are goths or punk or metal or whatever, they are normally quite smart. So that is complete and utter bullshit. Personally, I've gained a high number of academic awards and certificates from my time in the education system and outside of school, so I don't know how he tries to stand on that one. So us having nothing that benefits society kind of butt-fucks his argument on that. And then on top of that, no employer wants us due to the way that we look. Well, quite frankly, if an employer is going to tell me to piss off because of the way I look, or tells a goth to piss off because their hair is red or green or blue or whatever, instead of focusing on they would be the best for the job, well then I don't want to work for someone like that. And secondly, the employer should really look at what he's doing with his life, because he's clearly a fucking idiot if he's judging someone on their appearance rather than how good are they at the job. Then he starts giving like a bunch of things that are against the Bible, and it's a lot in some Bible passages underneath it, and I'm just going to go through these, which is apparently goth and the subculture is a rebellion against parents, and apparently rebelling against your parents is worthy of death. So surely that means that everybody is screwed, because we've all had an argument with our parents at some point. So that is pretty much everyone on earth screwed immediately. But first off, the subculture and the Gothic subculture, it isn't about rebellion. It's not about rebellion against parents. It's about being who you are. And you can say that it's like, oh, it's rebellion against the system, rebellion against conformity. Well, okay, if you want to look at it that way, it's being ourselves and not caring about what other people think of us. It's just wanting to be who we are. So you're not going to be able to just sit and claim that we're rebelling against people just because we can, because it's bullshit. We're not rebelling against people because we're trying to start a fight. We're just being who we are, and that is it. Another one was dress modestly, and apparently we all look like filthy satanic whores. Personally, I've never saw a filthy satanic whore, but I'm assuming that he's referring to everyone within the subculture again. So he's talking about, you know, like all the fishnets and tattoos and stuff like that. And one of the lines is that you're meant to cover up anything that should be covered. Well, first off, why are you aiming this at goths and the subculture? Because personally, I'd say they dress a lot more modestly than a lot of the sorority girls and a lot of the popular girls that you see kicking around. And, you know, like, I've saw some girls kicking around with some stuff where it's like, I've honestly just about mistaken their skirt for a belt. So don't be aiming at that, because that is just complete and utter discrimination, and you have no basis for an intellectual or moral argument on that. Secondly, and thirdly, worshipping other gods will condemn you to hell, and this isn't just within the occult. This is going straight from Luciferianism, which is devil worshipping, right down to Judaism, and that is going to end up in hell. But first off, if you're sitting there and you are Christian and you are completely against the subculture completely, first off, you're an idiot. But secondly, if you are, what he says is also kids too young to understand the Bible and individuals with mental retardations should be condemned to hell. Now, I don't care what you say. There's no grounds for argument on that. That is just completely wrong. Then it's apparently goths are proud to parade around in defiance to God, and pride is part of the 7 deadly sins. Well, if you're going to work on the 7 deadly sins, it just means that you're condemned to hell as well, mainly because you are clearly showing wrath, because you're showing complete and utter hatred to goths and the subculture. And like I said, you're aiming it specifically at goths, like you did with the clothing thing, whereas it could have been more placed forward towards sorority girls. So that is showing complete and utter wrath towards a group of people. And you need to remember, not everything is about Christianity. People don't go out of their way just to purposely piss off Christians. We do what we want, and that's it. We don't really care what anyone thinks of us. We just want to live our lives, and that's it. We don't care about offending people. Just leave us be. And thirdly, we parade around defiance. There are Christians within the subculture. I've got Christian subscribers, for God's sake. And I don't really see how they can be trying to defy their own God. They're just being who they are. So that is your argument completely destroyed. You've got no basis for argument on this. And then, as one of the quotes says, when a goth dies, God laughs. First off, I want to know exactly where you're finding your research on this. But you will find that the subculture is really, really close, and we always stand together against people like you, who are just completely and utterly hate-filled. Look at Sophie Lancaster, for example. Now, you may not know, she was a girl who was basically beaten into a coma along with her boyfriend. Her boyfriend woke up, but she didn't. And even if you didn't know her, every single person within the subculture was outraged at this. And it would be the same for anyone else. And see, quite honestly, if God laughs every time a goth dies, well, I would rather be in hell. Because, you know what, that's where all the fun people are, and it's where hate-filled arseholes like yourself are not. Then he tries to like constantly make this pressure towards like the Columbine massacre, and the people responsible were said to be Marilyn Manson fans. Well, I've looked up reports on this, and the reports are incorrect. They were not Marilyn Manson fans, and also you'll find that video game culture was involved in there, but you never hear that it was video game. You're just saying, oh, it was the Goths. So check your argument on this. And right, this is something I want to put forward, because this is, I mean, it's people like this that are causing the deaths of hundreds of kids a year, whether it be through subculture violence like what happened to Sophie Lancaster, or you know, like just getting bullied to the extent that kids are actually committing suicide. And I just want to put forward the point, this is why it's like there should be like some kind of legislation introduced to try and protect people within the subculture, because it's happening too often. Kids are getting bullied because of the way that they look and what kind of music that they're listening to. It's happened to me. It happened to me in high school, and it's happened to just about everyone else within the subculture at high school, where kids get bullied like to quite massive extents just for the way that they look and the music that they listen to. And I'm so glad that a racism law was brought in, or I'd hate to think like some of the stuff that the ethnic minorities would be going through, because they used to get the exact same. So I do believe that some legislation could be introduced. And if you're sitting there thinking that my argument has just been complete and utter crap this entire time, well, I'm going to read like an exact quote from the bottom of the page, which is nothing to do with the Goths or the subculture, but listen to this. God also detests retards, Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, thalidomide, I think that says, dwarfism, spina bifida, and other creatures. Spastic retardations are repulsive to God. Limbless monsters should not be allowed anywhere near a church, as they are unclean and repulsive to God. They are an abomination. They have minds of such reprobate nature that they are given to sexually gratifying themselves in public, and are none more than slobbering, stammering animals. Why should they get the best care, get grants to build ramps for them, wheelchairs, preferential treatment? If God did not intend them to walk, let them crawl like the snakes they are. I'll let you try and argue how this is a perfectly reasonable thing to say, and how it's completely reasonable to discriminate against people for no other reason than the way that they are.